Wokeness isn't a silly distraction, it's deadly serious. There were two news stories that struck me last week in that they illustrate perfectly why many of us have been concerned about the radical progressivism which has taken over our media, political and cultural elites. My principal critique of this ideology is that it encourages people to prioritize their subjective feelings about doing good and being tolerant over the reality of how the world actually works, and these two stories demonstrate the fallacy of the woke worldview and the terrible consequences its application has for the rest of us. First was the story of a Jamaican man who was saved from deportation last year by a passenger mutiny aboard a British Airways flight. Led by Cambridge graduate Hannah Gaffrey, brave passengers prevented the injustice of his removal from the country after a protracted legal battle. Ms. Gaffrey boasted proudly on Twitter that she and other passengers refused to sit down before takeoff and described receiving advice from Detention Action, a left-wing human rights charity. If Ms. Gaffrey and her fellow human rights campaigners had bothered to inquire as to why the man was being removed from the country, they may have discovered that Lawrence Morgan was being deported because he'd been convicted of a whole host of gun-related charges, including taking part in a shootout with other gangsters in which another man was brutally killed in open, broad daylight. Mr. Morgan, it turns out, was a violent drug-dealing gangster, and the only reason he hadn't been deported faster was that he claimed his life would be in danger in Jamaica, from other gangsters, of course. The second story which caught my eye was the report that the British government has banned the Islamist group Hizb ut-Tahrir. The group's stated aim is the re-establishment of the Islamic Caliphate and the imposition of Sharia law on the world. Why did the ban strike me as telling? Because the fact that Hizb ut-Tahrir wasn't already banned shows the absurdity of the approach our society is taking. Do you know which countries banned Hizb ut-Tahrir long before Britain did? Indonesia, the most populous Muslim nation in the world. Every Arab country except Yemen, Lebanon and the UAE. Every Muslim country in Central Asia. The group is banned in Bangladesh and Pakistan. In other words, Muslim countries are less tolerant of Islamist extremists than we are. Why? Because they're able to speak plainly about the threat they pose, and we're not. In a now viral clip, the UAE Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed, speaking years ago, warned Western countries that their failure of leadership and obsession with political correctness, his words, not mine, would sow the seeds of extremism.
There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists and terrorists coming out of Europe because of the lack of decision-making, trying to be politically correct, or assuming that they know the Middle East and they know Islam and they know the others far better than we do. And I'm sorry, but that's pure ignorance.
There is evil in the world. There are people who do not belong in our countries. There are people who wish us harm. No amount of be kind and don't look back in anger will stop them. And the problem with wokeness is that it trains otherwise good people to fail to see this. Before you go, let me take a minute to recommend a longevity supplement by Verso. In our recent interview with Tim Urban, he said,
"We should be talking about longevity and longevity science."
Researchers like the biologist David Sinclair have recently made some fascinating discoveries on how to mitigate or even slow down aging altogether. And that's why I'm using Verso. Verso is a company that translates these incredible scientific breakthroughs into products that hold the potential to increase your longevity. And one of their products that I take every day is Cell Being. Cell Being helps combat aging by increasing something called NAD+ in your body. Now, NAD is arguably the most important molecule in your body. High NAD levels improve your metabolism, repair damaged DNA, and increase energy production in your brain, immune system, and muscles. But as you grow old, your body's NAD levels go down, and you can't take NAD as a supplement because it's too big for your cells to absorb. That's why Verso Cell Being contains NMN, resveratrol, and TMG. These three molecules work together to increase NAD+ levels. If you want to read more about this, check out the scientific research linked in the description of this video. Plus, Verso publishes third-party testing on every batch of its products to guarantee that you're getting exactly what you're paying for. So, if you want to join me, you can get 15% off by going to ver.so. That's ver.so. advertise.so and use our code TRIGGER to save 15% off your order. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out the 3 interviews I did with people at a massive pro-Palestine rally here in London.